Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal issue 1. Awkwardly long title with multiple colons. There's no need for it.
I'm surprised you didn't want to talk about this after the Flash issue.
I mean, that's the order I read it, and I would recommend reading it that way. I don't think it actually matters in the context of.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't read Flash. I just saw the notes and what it was referencing.
So this kind of, not that it spoils the end of Flash, but you can tell Williamson kind of wrote this where he knew Barry was going. So there's stuff that happens there. But I read Flash and then this. I don't think it really matters.
I think if you're reading Flash, I would read it first. If you're not reading Flash, I think you'll be fine reading this. I
managed okay for the record.
Either way, not to tip my hand, both made me feel extremely good about the Flash, which I think is Williamson's strength. I know we hated on that, but in short bursts here, he really knows the way around the mythos.
We complained for about a year and a half about how bad the Flash comic was, and Matt came in here with, it made me feel good about the Flash. That's Williamson's strength.
Do you remember when Matt dropped that book like 3 times?
I did remember that.
Yeah, see? And that's part of Williamson. But I do want to say, it was always his story. It was never his characterization, really, of Barry. That was a problem. And I feel here, he gets to flex. There are moments in this book, as a Flash fan and Speed Metal, that just, man, so good. So, take us to Pete.
In a lot of ways, this kind of... by the way, this is Joshua Williamson writing with Eddie Barrows on the art. In a lot of ways, this kind of feels like he's finally getting to address Rebirth, because that literally opens with, hey, here's what happened in Rebirth, and how Wally came back, and how everything sort of went through the metal and the death metal, and how we all got to hear.
It's a quick recap of all of Rebirth.
Yeah,
not just the one shot, like of everything since in the briefest of forms.
And what's notable to me is that how it kind of has to acknowledge Heroes in Crisis without ever actually directly talking about it. It's almost like it wants to ignore that part.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I also do like how he wrote that into Flash, where that was Thawne coming through and doing the negative Flash stuff, which seems like a cop out, but I'll take it. It's very Flash focused. So the fact that he can touch on it here, and really the only sticking point is that Roy's still dead. From Heroes in Crisis.
It's almost like
I forgot Roy was dead.
Yeah,
I had to even read Outlaws with him in it last time.
It's almost like we're not even going to bother properly retcon it. We're all just going to, all the writers are just going to collectively choose to never really bring it up or talk about it, and just kind of move on with our lives, and that's fine. Except for the fact that Roy's dead, and they're going to have to try and figure out a way to bring him back. Probably just when there's a whole line-wide reset of some kind, and they can just sort of do it in the middle of that, as opposed to
and just wave
a magic blue hand.
Although I don't know if that magic blue hand's gonna have power after the end of this, because it'll be different. It'll be a tad bit different. I also do like how here we do get kind of a mixing of metal and the metaverse. Here.
You mean the Metalverse?
The Metalverse and the metaverse. That Doomsday Clock. Not that it didn't feel important, but it feels like Manhattan's meddling with things is playing part into this finally, whereas kind of we never really felt that. We had the button and all that other stuff, but it always just felt kind of amorphous. Here, there's finally, not that it needed it, but I did like that Williamson works that into Wally and the whole Metron chair and all of that stuff. So
yeah, I mean the plot of this issue is basically that the Barry, Wally, and Jay are running from the what was this thing called? I forget.
Well, it was the horde, right, of the Black Flash, and it was the Darkest Night.
The one big thing, right?
Yeah, before that, because before that there's the big shadow face thing.
It's the Darkest Night. It's that man who laughs.
Is it literally just the Darkest Night that's chasing them? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's chasing them. They're on the run. Speed Force is crumbling. Eventually, Wally. This is after the army of the horde of the dark Flashies from the various dark multiverse timelines all start coming out as well.
Wallace pops in at one point. Just shows up.
Yeah, Wallace pops in. Wally whips out the old formula. the old formula to stop time.
I bet Matt loved that.
I did.
I'm sure you did. So time freezes, gives him a chance to actually talk and recoup and talk about what's going on and figure some things out. And in a lot of ways, this felt like we finally got to have some kind of big Wally payoff, and it's kind of a little bit bittersweet because we had to go through Heroes in Crisis to even get here. But it's hard to deny that Wally kind of confronting Barry about actually going back, into his shadow after he came back from Final Crisis, and Barry kind of admitting that Wally should maybe lead for a change, and that all these little beats don't actually, cause a lot of nice feelings. For whatever reason, maybe to sell some action figures later, the other Flashes, not Wally, but the other three, all get like metal versions of their suits. I can't say I really care for Wallace's or Barry's, but I do like Jay's quite a bit.
It's the Black Flash versions, right? Not
yeah,
metal.
that's what they say. Yeah, so
I mean, whatever,
Jay's
same difference.
It's very reminiscent of Earth 2J.
It is actually, yeah.
The Robinson and Tom Taylor, JSA universe, which was pretty cool because this is older Jay doing that. But yeah, the other ones they're just kind of whatever. I'll throw them up there with the metal costumes.
Yeah, Barry's is probably the worst. I would say I'm neutral on Wallace.
On the cover, I didn't realize that was supposed to be Barry, just because there's nothing signifying.
Yeah,
I think
that's
Wallace's works better than Barry's because it has the white as well. I think that kind of gives it some balance to it. I think a bit more than Barry's.
Yeah, I'm more neutral. I'm not necessarily a big fan of all the jaggies in his shoulders and stuff sticking out, but
I get it.
The color scheme's fine. But I think Jay actually looks kind of cool.
They were just superfluous, like Pete said, to sell maybe an action figure or something, or show off some designs.
Yeah, the only thing I'd really change about Jay's is the face.
Because they can sell a pack of, hey, it's the Speedster Metal pack of all their metal variants, whatever. Anyway, so their plan is to actually run into the Horde, through the Horde, to eventually get to Castle Bat, or whatever it's called, and get the Mobius chair, so they can get the Mobius chair to Wonder Woman, and she can use that to help rewrite everything. It'll give her the knowledge to win, blah blah blah. Usual MacGuffin style stuff. So there's a lot of 2-page spreads in this. There's a lot of pages of them running at the Horde, through the Horde, away from the Horde. A lot of speed lines, all that stuff. The highlight of the issue, though, I think absolutely has to be the moment where Wally decides to become the Flash again, and the suit starts to form on him before you turn the page, and you get this 2-page layout of him not in his rebirth, suit with the hair coming out. He's in his proper the Flash suit from his tenure as the Flash.
Yeah. The Wade given Flash suit post Crisis on Infinite Earths with the diagonal belt. Oh man, good.
Looks
and then
good.
that just that whole layout, and it's kind of his history up to this point.
Barrows does a great job with the double pages, and just with the flow of them. I think the ones early on, especially, and a credit to whoever does the lettering as well in this issue, where you read one right to left, essentially. It kind of leads your eye and swings you around, and the next one it goes left to right. But it always feels a really natural way of reading it. You're not like second guessing where the next.
Wait, are you sure the first one was right to left? Because I read it that way first, and then I feel like I read it the wrong way because it didn't make much sense, and I read it the opposite way, and it made more sense to me.
I read it left to right.
Yeah, left to right made more sense because I read it the other way first, and then I was going to complain about it because I thought the boxes actually made it feel like it should go the other way, but it didn't.
I mean, right to left works for me.
Which are you talking about? The first double page spread?
Yeah, with the hand coming out of it. So I went from someone else and then over to the right of even then. But I think both work. It actually works in both ways when I read it.
I mean, I read it left to right because that's how you read. So
I did, but I when I was reading, maybe this is instead of appraising the art, it's more of a critique. It felt to me with the hand, the finger, it was leading me across the hand to the boxes, then back around.
It did with me as well, which is why I read it right to left first. But then there was a couple of boxes that felt weird. I was like, I'm going to read this the other way and see if it makes more sense, and it did.
No, I looked through the time period. And he just got him as Kid Flash, and then around, and then we have the real bad miniseries that I didn't read, with him sitting on the chair. So like it was just look at the page and then,
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I think the flow actually implied it was meant to be read the wrong, because the following two-page spread with the Batman who laughs at the top of it, I just read left to right first, and that made sense.
That one's really clear that it goes left to right, because you start in the top and you just go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on that first one, I think the art definitely implies that you want to go across the hand and then back in, at least to me.
Yeah.
And Pete said you did the same thing.
I did the same thing, but I think the text makes sense the other way around. Because I started to just sort of it just started to read like nonsense to me, reading it right to left.
It still kind of worked for me enough that I didn't question it enough. I mean, maybe it works better going the other way, but it didn't. It never felt odd for me.
It worked to a point. By the time I got to the middle of it, it started to feel like it was referencing a previous line before I got to it, and I was like, I think I'm reading this the wrong way around. So I reread it the other way, and it made more sense. But yeah, so Wally gets his Flash suit on. This two-page spread has like his entire history play out. We see from Iris to when he was a kid with Barry, to meeting Linda, to the kids, all that stuff. And I'll be honest, I thought it was given the finger, and then I realized it was the devil horns. But
me too.
Yeah.
I do feel like maybe there was a version that was the finger.
Do you know what I think it is? Because I had a look at this, because I did the exact same thing. It's the shadowing on the foot, on the first finger, that draws your eye to that, whereas the back finger, the little one, doesn't actually.
And that's why I feel like maybe originally Barrows was like, "Hey, this will be cool. We'll give him the finger," and then someone was like, "Yeah, maybe we don't want to do that." But the devil horns still work, but definitely the middle finger, because he goes, "Hey, Batman who tries too hard," which I was like, "Yeah, chirp him."
Of course, you love that. Of course.
Yeah. And he's just too slow. That is a middle finger moment, right?
It felt like it, and Leslie, I think it's the shadowing on that finger that draws your eye to it, whereas the back finger blends in with the rest of the suit. That makes it look like it's just the one finger up at first until your eyes kind of refocus.
Yeah. So when he gets to the chair, he says, "I'm back," and you think, "Oh, he's back as the Flash. This is a triumphant moment." But then it's like, no, and then you turn the page, like, "No, he's back in the Speed Force." To the point where my catchphrase is even there. "Lost in the Speed Force" is one of the caption boxes. And he's drifting away, and it feels like he's going again. But just as when he thinks he's all is lost, and he's his text bubbles are fading away, as if he's just going into the void. The entire Flash family are there. It's like, nah, we're not letting you drift away this time. We all sort of snuck in here.
No, I love that, because to me, the Flash has always been about that legacy and that family. Like, we always use the term the Flash family. So the fact that they were all there for him, unlike last time where he was just by himself, Williamson really stuck that seeds of rebirth.
Not to pick apart your point, but I feel like we use Bat Family, Super Family, just as much as we do Flash Family.
With Flash Family, though, in terms of the arguably Fantastic Four being Marvel's first family, is kind of where it started, and then Flash Family for DC.
For me, I think of Flash Family first, just because Wally did take the helm so long. He was that character that took it on, and then it really was the family. Look at, so Wally's related through Iris, right? And then Iris and Barry are the grandparents to Bart. And then, you have Irie and Jay, and then, older Jay. Wait, did we ever figure out if it's Jay or Jai?
Oh, Young?
Yeah.
Not really, I don't think, but
okay.
I still say
Either
Jay,
way.
because he's clearly named after Jay.
Right, it's Jay and Iris. So, anyways, and then you have older Jay who takes them on, like him and Joan raise Bart basically in Impulse. So like there is a little bit more of a family component than I would say to some of the other ones. Even though, let's not pick that all of the super family literally are related. They have to be. Krypton. Anyways,
all the Robins are basically Batman's kids.
Right, but for me, Bat Family is a little bit more of the family you pick versus I feel the Super and Flash ones literally are all through related, and that's what that's what I get from it is they're all drawn to Wally because they're all kind of drawn together through him. The Flash is a family because Wally, and I love that.
Yeah. My only complaint of the art here is that the panel where he's hugging Iris, it looks like they're going for a kiss, and I was like, is that maybe Linda at first? And I was like, no, Linda's down the next panel. That's weird.
Yeah. You don't kiss your auntie on the lips.
I don't even think
So
they're.
my family, you don't. If you do, that's cool.
I don't. I don't even think they're kissing. I think it's just that their foreheads are together.
It's just foreheads. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
But
looks bad.
Yeah, mind you, it's a smaller panel, but they could have just been a proper hug, you know.
Yeah, I think Wally and Iris have been watching too much Pornhub. They're starting
A little
to
bit.
get into some weird shit here. I broke my.
Way
I
to
broke
drag the
my.
tone down, Pete.
I love it. I broke my.
I'm not gonna do. I had a joke, but I'm not gonna make it.
I want to hear the joke.
Nope. Let's just say it involves being the fastest man alive.
I think that was going to be an ejaculation joke, people, just for anyone who didn't keep up.
There you go. There you go.
But no, I had fun here. The kids sort of going, "Ooh, gross," as Linda and Wally are being nice to each other and blah blah. Now, admittedly, Wally said he has to put on the blue suit again. It was like, all right, okay.
Oh,
whatever.
it was so disappointing. I was like, oh, it's back, and then it turns. Oh, really?
That's it, though. I do like the tone here, which is basically like, okay, there's one last bit of like anti-crisis energy in me. This is the last hurrah of this time with the chair. You know, whatever happens next, this chair stuff's over. Like, you know, like, it's not going to be that long.
Right?
So, it's, you know, it's just fine. So,
the biggest surprise of this issue, though, for me was just I was expecting this to be okay. It's a metal tie-in, and you know, I kind of half of the course I know what to expect from those now. And don't know that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm quite happy to have metal tie-ins. I wasn't expecting this to be the issue that pays off Rebirth for Wally. Like that kind of came out of nowhere.
You know, but I'm kind of glad that it is coming from Williamson, who's been on the Flash since the start.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Not just
But instead of having Snyder, who really didn't like, when you think about Snyder and Rebirth, he really didn't have much to do with Rebirth.
nah, if anything,
not until like halfway through where he started doing the Justice League.
yeah, because if anything, Snyder was in this weird place where he was given All-Star Batman. It was a lot like when Morrison got incorporated. Not the exact same, but it was kind of similar in the sense that you're still going to continue with Batman in a way, just over here, at its own little pocket that's separate from everything going on in the main line.
He did that, and then Last Night on Earth.
Yeah.
Kind of following those chains.
And he was doing Justice League for, halfway in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
once he took Justice League, he was like a proper part of the universe again, but...
Yeah, but he really wasn't addressing stuff from Rebirth. He was, he was putting things forward, which is cool.
It's funny, I wonder when this issue kind of came to fruition in terms of concept, because I do wonder if this is a post-Didio decision, because it kind of feels... Because I think we were getting the impression that Didio wasn't necessarily that interested in paying off some of the stuff from Rebirth.
No.
He didn't really care.
I think he actually doesn't like that generation that we love, the Wallies and the Nightwings.
Yeah, well, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah, but I feel like that's why they both got lost. The further Rebirth went, the more they kind of got lost.
Yeah.
Whereas
I think
feel like
Didio tried to pay off a lot of the Rebirth stuff as early as possible, like like Superman, for example. So all right, let's clean this up, get it sorted, and then just move on. Just forget about it.
I'm getting the feeling here that Metal right now, and whatever we get into next with these Generation 1 shots and whatever's coming after that, it kind of feels like they're really actually trying to tie up a lot of loose ends that have been here since the start of Rebirth.
Yep.
And, whatever sort of fresh slate we're getting, whether that's some new launches, whether that's some event that's going to like spark everything into place or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to reset the table a little bit.
I always feel that by them not addressing Wally and them just being like, here, he's back, enjoy, I feel that did more damage than just being like, oh, hey, he's over here doing this stuff. But it always seemed to me like there was a mandate to get him out of there. And I don't know if that's true. That's just how I was reading. Because, look how much we enjoyed the Flash War stuff.
I think to a point it felt like token inclusion. Like, oh, fine, we'll bring Wally back.
Right.
But we don't want him in the main books, so that's why he was always off in like Titans and wherever else he was shafted off to for the side for a while.
And I just feel like Williamson had this from the beginning. He had this, handle on the mythos, because look at how he brought back Bart, and then he really didn't get to use him. Like it had to be Bendis that got to use him in Young Justice, and then when we see him show up in the Flash, like he's having fun writing that character. and I just always wonder like how much of that was no, you just need to focus on Barry or whatever, from editorial and whatnot. I don't know. I'd love to if I could ask him and he could be honest because I don't think he'd ever say anything, But I also think it's interesting to note that he was pretty much in there on the button stuff, right? That the Flash, because of a Flashpoint and Batman, they were always kind of interlinked. So it
but that's another one
surprise.
Like I mentioned with the Superman stuff, that was quite early, and that was what issues like 17, 18?
Yeah, it might have been 20, but
yeah, it was like 21, 22.
Okay,
yeah.
So I mean,
but either way,
we're talking about 2 months at this point there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Flash has been a big part of what Rebirth is, and especially Wally, who just kind of disappeared through that. We throughout New 52, you had the people like me being like, "Where's Wally?" And then we get Wallace, and it's not the same, but they tried, and now we get a new character out of it, and that's fine. So here, finally, I'm glad that Williamson, it's taken how many years to finally get Wally back into a spot where he feels important. He is the Flash that launched the modern.
Yeah, and arguably this is okay. We're setting him up to be in a point where he's going to be the most important he's been since before Barry came back, right?
Right.
In theory. Also, by the way, in the UK, Where's Wally was called Where's Wally, so Matt saying Where's Wally in the middle of that made me chuckle.
There was on those things, just things that I don't think were intentional references, but made me laugh. In the middle of this issue, when Jay's like, "I'm going to stay and fight the demon zombie Black Flashes," and one of them goes, "We'll come back for you, Jay," and all I could hear was from Always Sunny with the Thunder Gun episode. Just "We'll come back for you," and I don't think it was an intentional thing, but it's all I could hear it.
Yeah, that whole race where, first Jay breaks down because he's older, then Wallace can't keep up, so he goes back to help Jay. And eventually Barry's like, "I'm going to give you whatever power I've got left so you can go faster than you've ever traveled before, Wally."
Faster than you've ever fastest.
Yes, faster than you've ever fastest. Which gives him the strength to get to the chair and then ultimately exit the Speed Force. And so the last page is basically just Wally in his blue suit with Jay and Barry behind, taking the chair to Wonder Woman and everyone else. So this is it feels relatively essential. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure issue 4 of Death Metal will just say, "Oh, the Flash just went and got the chair," and they brought it.
Yeah,
right?
I think this one feels less essential than the Trinity Crisis one.
I would agree with that. I still think it feels fairly essential, and bizarrely, I actually think it's a 3-pronged essential issue in the sense that it's 30% essential to Death Metal, 30% essential to be the end of the Flash run by Williamson, and 30% essential in paying off Rebirth stuff that's been lingering since the start of the whole thing. So
I agree with that. Very fair assessment. I think it's probably out of those though, like the Metal one, it feels like that's the easiest one where you could skip it, I think.
Yes. But
it's the least essential to Metal.
But you add all those up though. You add all those up and it feels really important.
It does, and I don't think it was marketed that way. Like I didn't think this was going to be like a really important issue. So obviously we knew it was coming right after the last issue.
No, but my shop did order a bunch of them.
So you think maybe retailers knew?
Yeah, having the foresight that, hey, this might be a hot book. If it's not, cool. But if it is, I don't want to be shorted on them.
I wonder if DC kind of gave retailers a heads up of what it was in terms of, its contextual importance, because I know they do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as they don't screw over Wally and the rest of the story.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Williamson's going to do next, because I feel like he's having him do this to close off the whole Flash thing. Or the story that started with Rebirth. I hope he has a pretty big role going forward.
Yeah,
it seems like it because he's doing a lot of these Metal stuff.
He's on the Justice League Metal tie-in, right? And maybe some of the other ones later. But I don't think he has an ongoing book now, right?
Well, Batman Superman.
But
sure, yeah, but no, not one to replace Flash. Is what I mean.
I'm sure he will come February or so.
Yeah,
but because you also look at what Tom Taylor's saying is that they because we'll talk about Suicide Squad. And people are like, "Oh man, I hope you got something planned to follow it up." He goes, "I got many things." So,
and we know, like Bendis again. We talked about this last week. Has something planned at least. So it does feel like a lot of these creators that are finishing on books, do have more coming.
Yeah.
And I hope that's true, because I do like Williamson. I went and I delved into Nailbiter, because I got the first issue of the second series, and it picked right back up, and it was damn good. Now I'm gonna have to wait for it to go and trade like I did, because I can't do the weekly or the monthly read with the book like that. So I feel like whatever was going on, it reinvigorated him, and I kind of want more stuff like this. And that first issue of Nailbiter, that got me hooked on him, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I mean I can't really emphasize that enough. Just how fist pumping it was, realizing, because you can kind of see it in the page building up to the suit. You're like, wait, that red suit that's coming in is not the Rebirth one. I'm pretty sure that's going to be his full suit. So
I wouldn't mind a compromise in the sense of, because about halfway through when he's in the red suit, the cowl gets a bit ripped.
Yeah.
And his hair starts coming out. I wouldn't mind having the headband part of the Rebirth suit, but everything else just being identical to this.
Well, what I was going to say though is I think it's really important to sort of cap this off as your payoff to Rebirth, is that having him in that suit, acknowledging not only that Wally West exists and that he's back, but acknowledging his time as the Flash, even though obviously they mentioned it here or there, obviously they, of course they have, but actually kind of paying homage to it and acknowledging that he kind of became a better Flash in that time than Barry ever had been before.
And that goes into Barry being that good of a role model, right? There's that saying that when you have kids, you want them to do better than you. And even though it's not his biological kid, he kind of raised Wally. So the fact that he became a better Flash means that Barry was successful. And so I like that.
Giving him that visual though in this issue, it kind of cements the intention of what it's supposed to be. Now, admittedly, I mean, sometimes I get a little bit tired of comics and how we all seem to be fighting for things to be fixed because they keep screwing things up every so often. And Wally's been kind of the, Wally and Dick, because it's so funny how we hit that point like in 2018, I assume it was, where Rick Grayson and the Heroes in Crisis stuff with Wally
at the same time
was kind of hitting around the same time, and it was like, holy shit, what's happening to our heart and soul?
That was a rough time period.
It was a dark time.
But you look at those characters from that from that era, and none of them really had anything to do. They were almost this lost generation, outside of Cyborg, and the only reason he got so much prominence was John's deciding to give him prominence in New 52.
Yeah, because it's not like Raven or Beast Boy or Starfire had anything super notable.
Starfire,
and I get why they're lost in the sense of, okay, we have our established, top tier. We've got the new kids that we want to showcase. The younger, you want your teens, your Young Justice, whatever team it's going to be at the time, your young one. These characters now, they're too old to be that young team. But they're not the top tier, no matter how we think of them. They're not perceived as the top tier. Wally might be the only exception to this in terms of, okay, he spent a long time as the Flash.
Well,
I would say give them a let them be the Justice League while all the big characters have their solo books. The only problem is that these, not just DC, comic books in general, are notorious for kind of after the initial arc of a new team, kind of forgetting they exist, and it just ends up feeling like a C-tier book as opposed to being treated like it's important. Like it should be. Like why can't you have a team book? Like, I mean, in theory, even just a relaunch of Titans, why couldn't Titans feel like a big book?
Do them as an outsiders team.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I started reading comics. That Titans team was the outsiders, and their whole thing was, well, we can do things that Justice League can't because they're not as big, right?
It's kind of what they did in because they took that inspiration for that into Young Justice, the show, in the sense of, okay, obviously we started off with these characters being the young ones, but by the third season, those had grown up, and we'd got to the newer generation, as it were. And they kind of became, well, some of us might go join the league, but others, we're going to do kind of the outsiders essentially and be the off the books team.
Right. And so, but no, I definitely hope that whatever goes forward out of this, it's in a spot that, because I always just feel like them denying that these characters, and even Spoiler was in on that, like they just were not there or weren't addressed.
Well,
so
it's an extension of what we're saying. Is you're talking about how the big characters are never allowed to go away. and then you have these characters that have grown up and there's a new generation. That's actually incorrect. We're at the point now where there's another generation underneath them, so now there's two lost generations in between, and that was kind of Young Justice who were missing.
I think that's kind of what was a little bit frustrating in some ways, that we're not going to see 5G come to fruition. Because I think that would have been really interesting to see. Okay, no, they're being forced to retire that top gen, essentially, and kind of move on. I mean,
it's very a Marvel approach. Marvel would do that for. I mean, there was a while where you had Jane Thor and Sam Wilson as Cap, and I don't know who was Tony Stark, but I don't think it was traditional Tony Stark.
It might have been the alien clone,
whatever it was, So that they tried to do that too, and
Cho as Hulk as well, right?
Yeah, Cho as Hulk, and it was just all new, all different Marvel, right? And it was still fine from what I was reading.
Yeah, I mean, for a little while, but then they had to revert everything back to status quo.
Yeah, then you end up coming back, and now and I'm getting caught up on Jason Aaron's Thor. That's such what I'm used to saying. Jason Aaron's Avengers, and it's all who you would think. It's almost the movie lineup, but swap She-Hulk for Hulk.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Throw in Ghost Rider.
Right, and there's that's just comics, but to act like those other characters just don't exist, it's kind of my problem right now with what's going on with X-Men is I don't know how Laura's supposed to fit in, or Gabby, or some of these other younger X characters that I really dig, because of them this is the X-Men now. And I feel like DC had done that with these younger heroes, and it always cracked me up that we had Barry back, and that's cool, but you have Central City, but they're twin cities. What's going on in Keystone? You can't have Wally just being over there maintaining things,
I think ultimately the solution was always we should have just had 2 Flash books, one each.
Yeah, but even if let's say the comic sales being what they are, you could just have Wally guest star on stuff. Like, sure, it wouldn't be
but I mean, we had Flash double shipping for 4 years now. We could have quite easily split that into 2 monthly books, no problem, and the sales would probably not have had that much. I'm just doing
devil's advocate here, But even just him guesting and being like, oh, he's doing his stuff over here, or doing an arc of what's going on in Keystone or whatever. It's all there, and same with Dick over in Nightwing. I don't know why we had to, because it always seemed to me like King didn't. It wasn't a huge plot point that Rick or Dick got shot to become Rick. It's not like he had some grand plan. It was to move the story forward for KG Beast and Batman.
The story in Batman could have just been that he got shot and he was in a coma for a bit. It didn't need to lose his memory. Like, it was irrelevant to the actual Batman book.
He can't have a monthly book if he's in a coma.
Just have it all set before, like they always do for these things. It's not that hard. I mean, it's really easy just to accept that Dick Grayson's, like, the story is simply, in Batman 99, Batman says, welcome back, and hands him his outfit. That's it. That's his entire journey back. And you can just ignore every issue of Nightwing from the day that he got shot to that moment.
I do.
Yeah, right? So, but no, just my point is it seemed like they did more harm than good just doing that, or it's even the Justice League Odyssey team where at least they were doing stuff, and I don't like it, but
I saw a
Cyborg,
recap of the last few issues of what happened, and I mean, mild spoilers to that book, I guess, but they all died? What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, they were
I
all
got
dead.
to the point,
like, not even just for it's a one-issue cliffhanger. They were dead for issues and issues by the sounds of it.
because they had to be reborn because of the stuff that I almost called him Thanos, because he's essentially Thanos in that book. Darkseid's doing. It's funny that Darkseid predates Thanos, but then Thanos rips off Darkseid, and then Thanos gets big because of the MCU, and then this version of hooded Darkseid kind of becomes Thanos.
What you have just described is comics in a nutshell.
Yeah, right? So, but anyways, they died. Jess died at one point. She exploded and then gets held back together by Green Lantern-ness.
Yeah, but all the others actually died, and Jess was just like the
well, they all got lost to the Omega Effect the last time I had read.
Yeah.
Someone's here, apparently, because the dogs are going nuts.
Yeah. Well, this is went wildly off topic anyway.
It did, but I think though, as DC fans that we are, at least I won't speak for you guys, this really hit me in the heart and did make me feel happy. Not as much as we'll get to the Flash, not as much as that did, but seeing Wally back in that costume, seeing him interact with the family, and just having my Wally West seemingly back, even if it's just for this. Because I do feel like the rug's gonna be pulled out and he's not surviving metal. You know, like a Flash has to die. How many times are we hearing this?
I mean, it's mentioned in this issue. It's the word the Batman Who Laughs says it, or the Darkest Knight says it, whoever. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to get my hopes up about whatever's going to happen with Wally and anyone else from that generation in a few months' time. But at the very least, maybe they won't completely screw it up, which would be nice. Yeah, and the art is mostly good in the issue. There's a couple of moments we mentioned that aren't perfect, but ultimately it is generally quite nice looking, and the 2-page layouts do look very pretty.
Yeah, Barrows has always been a good fit for Flash. I think he has a strong dynamism. No, I can't speak.
Dynamism.
Thank you.
Gotcha. I kind of slurred it a little bit, but that's one of those words.
Yeah. So, but he has a lot of that.
Yeah, if you like Barrows and you like what I've talked about Venditti, his Freedom Fighters, it's Venditti and Barrows doing, pulpy, actiony stuff. So that sounds like your jam. Have at it.
Yep, I plan on getting to it.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm giving this a solid 8.
Connor?
I'm also giving it an 8. It was going to be an 8.5, but since we had that discussion on that double-page spread, I'm knocking it down half a point.
Oh, jeez.
My mate's going. I probably will give it the 8.5. It hit me enough in the feels where it needed to hit me. That it was delightful to see that stuff, so there you go. That is Speed Metal issue 1.